Welcome everyone. While we wait for the other attendees and the participants to join in today's session, I'm just going to introduction, introducing you all to today's webinar and the organizers and the panelists who are here today. So I'm Abhigyan Sengupta, co-founder and CEO of Hackstrap, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to the webinar today. All the organizers here from C Marketplace to Panelists and finally all of us at Team Hackstrap, we are delighted to have such a vibrant audience here with us. To introduce, Hackstrap is a networking and technology platform for investors, innovators, and experts. We are on a mission to facilitate connections, build tools and technologies to empower the makers and the doers in the entrepreneurial circle. Our aim in organizing the webinars, including the one today, is to bring businesses and entrepreneurs together for collaborating and coming up with solutions on different areas and collaborating and converging on their ideas and their operations. With that, I see we have all the majority of the attendees over here. So I will start today's event. Let me begin today's session. So our aim today in arranging today's session was to focus specifically on the digital technology sphere industry with specific emphasis on SaaS and the payment gateways. Now, as we all know, 2020 has been a grim year marred by the COVID crisis globally, which has disrupted entire industries and lifestyles. Though it has led to the same, it has also led to revolutionary innovations, particularly in the digital space. Many companies like Zoom have grown their user base rapidly using this particular situation to their advantage. They have grown their user base rapidly, while startups while startups like Techmint have disrupted their industries and made great strides in the digital technology sphere. Among the digital service industry, SaaS businesses have emerged recently as the cornerstone, providing solutions that range from the smallest of the needs to the biggest of the challenges in running everyday businesses for a plethora of enterprises. Companies like ChargeBee and CleverTap have revolutionized the way we can understand user analytics and user engagement. However, SaaS businesses face serious challenges in operating their business. Now, this is really, due to a variety of issues, and we'll only be focusing on a specific some of them today. The major issues being that of churn, user acquisition costs, and pricing. With one such major problem among these is their use of payment gateway related issues in the business. SaaS businesses are plagued by issues like this coming up with newer pricing models and retaining customers while dealing with payment gateways. With their level of permeation in the industry, particularly the digital service industry, and widespread demand in the market, I think we can all agree that SaaS businesses deserve much better. Today, the main agenda of our discussion is to get the experts in our panel to present an overview on payment gateways and payment analytics. The panelists will share insights to the possible solutions of some of the problems that are faced by SaaS businesses in particular. Hopefully by the end of this session, even if you have not found, all the participants today, I'm assuming majority of you are entrepreneurs and specifically, involved in the SaaS business sphere. We all hope, the organizers, we all hope that by the end of the session, even if you have not found a specific solution to your problem, you would have at least gained some critical market knowledge and insights to this particular issue and the industry in particular. We have planned now to give you a brief overview of today's event. We have planned today's event in 3 segments. The first segment being a presentation on the problems faced by SaaS businesses and the solutions to the same, followed by a panel discussion by eminent panelists on the same topic uh, with regards to the digital enterprise domain. Finally, we will open the floor to all of you participants to participate in a Q&A session and clarify any doubt that you have, that has come to your mind throughout the duration of this session. We will initiate the session with presentation by, we will initiate this particular session with a presentation by Mrs. Kamalika Poddar. Now, to give you a basic introduction about Mrs. Kamalika, she is an
Miss
MDI Gurgaon
Kamalika.
alumnus. Yeah, okay, sure, Kamalika. Kamalika is an alumnus of the prestigious MDI Gurgaon College. He's a voracious reader and an ardent animal lover. Being a banker, she's here. I mean, her specific field of expertise is banking. She is here today to share a few insights on the evolution of payment gateways, specifically focusing on how the Goliaths, like banks and the NBFCs, are coping up with the attacks from fintech startups on the space of payment systems. With that, let me invite Kamalika to enlighten us with her presentation. Kamalika, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Vigyan, for that kind introduction. So I'm having a bit of an issue projecting my screen over here. I wasn't able to join through my laptop. I had to join in through the mobile. So if you guys could, bring up the presentation at your end.
Sure. Definitely, Kamalika. Let me share the screen from my side. I will be presenting. Yeah, Kamalika, you're good to go.
Yeah, so I just thought I'll briefly touch upon, the history of the evolution of the payment systems that we have had, right from what it was in the past, what it is like today, and going forward, what are the things that we would probably be able to see. So that's about a brief of what I plan to cover in the next, 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, let's get started on that front then. Um, so on the historic side of things, like how things started out, was obviously the barter system. You have a banana and you want to have an apple. So, like the two people on the screen, you trade with each other. You give the person who wants the apple your banana, and you take their apple in exchange. But the issue with this sort of a barter system was that there was no way to actually set a particular value. Like, there's no standardized set of values for you to exchange goods. Like, suppose today I want to have cow and I have 10 apples. Is that a apple to apple comparison? No, it was not. So it was very difficult for people to trade like for like value items. Because of which, if you go to the next point, you'll see that kingdoms across came up with the totem of the coin system, wherein they would print the value that this can buy, this particular token can buy for you. And on that basis you could go and buy. Suppose, say, they've decided that the market has decided that an apple costs you 10 totems, so then you collect 10 of those totems, go to the market, buy an apple and come back. Tomorrow they decide that to get a cow you need to have 100 totems, so then you have to have 100 totem, you have to collect 100 totems before you can go and buy a cow. So that kind of standardized the way we see value in products. But that was restricted only within the kingdom. Now, as trade started flourishing, people wanted to take their wares outside the kingdom. Now, how do you go about doing that? So different kingdoms or countries had to come up with an agreement with each other to set an exchange rate. So that is where the entire exchange rate came into picture, wherein they'd say that if I'm probably trying to set up a trade relation with US, I set up an agreement. Okay, let's say that one US dollar can buy you 77 rupees or whatever, and that again depends on the market forces, and that way the payments between borders started streamlining. Then we had the evolution of the central banking system. So the kingdoms could focus more on the administrative issues, whereas the banks could focus more on enabling these trades across different central banks in different nations. But the issue there was that different central banks spoke in a different language. Like the way they processed information, probably someone had a template wherein you have to have the payee's name first, then the payer's name, then the bank account, then the amount, then the currency, whereas someone else might start with the currency. So it was not a very standardized format, and communicating between central banks was a very big challenge at that point of time, which was where the Swift messaging system came into play. So it kind of standardized the entire communication between central banks and eased the way you communicate, the format in which you communicate. There were different message types which denoted different types of transactions that you can have with the bank. So one particular message type was to, validate a letter of credit. You had a particular set of codes to you redeem a bank guarantee and stuff like that, so on and so forth, which was done by the Swift messaging system. So that was all that used to happen, say, up until the mid 1990s. Now, from the late 1990s till what has happened today, I think all of us know about it. We've had, moving on to the next slide. So, we've all had like this internet explosion that had happened. So, we ended up with a lot of payments that were happening over the internet. And for it to happen over the internet, you needed to have a set way to go about transacting on the internet, because you cannot have, like, you suppose you want to, going back, to the 1999, I assume you want to buy something on Amazon, you cannot go up to Amazon then start keying in Amazon's account number, Amazon's IFSC code. It made life that much more difficult for us to transact online. And online, as we all know, lived on the premise of instant gratification. So making sure that we are able to get that seamlessly within a shorter period of time, we had the evolution of payment gateways coming in when the internet exploded into the payments arena. So just briefly thought I'll touch upon the working of a payment gateway. So typically you have on the two ends, the one end of the funnel you have the merchant who is selling his wares, and on the other end you have the customer. So the customer has decided, he's gone into the merchant's website and decided that, okay, I've added these items to cart. My total amount is, just for example, say 1,000 rupees. Now I need to transfer this 1,000 rupees from the customer to the merchant. So that is where the payment gateway comes into play, because obviously people have a lot of apprehension, and there have been a lot of frauds also when it comes to revealing sensitive information on the internet. So that is where the payment gateway comes in. It acts as an intermediary over there. So the customer goes into the website, keys in their payment details. It can either be their account number or their card number or whatever, and it is securely stored at the payment gate's end. The payment gateway then sends it to the processing bank to figure out if this is a legitimate account. The bank then tells the payment gateway that, okay, the details that you've given me, yes, this account has 1,000 rupees to do the transaction. This account does indeed belong to person X who's initiated the transaction. So go ahead and please process it. And then after they process it, the payment gateway transfers the money to the merchant's bank. And once the settlement happens, the amount gets reflected. Typically, settlements. So previously, when we had the Swift system, the settlement used to take about anywhere between 2 days to 1 week. But with the payment gateway, settlements used to happen within 2 days. So the TAT, or the turnaround time, reduced that much with the help of payment gateways. But even then, that's about payment gateways. Even then, if you see, a lot of the processing was done manually. So when I say manually, the payment processing itself was not automated. There was someone sitting at the back end who was sitting and verifying key, okay, account number 1234567 does indeed have 1,000 rupees of balance, and if I deduct this 1,000 rupees, will he still have that, will he still be within that minimum amount due that is stipulated by the bank? or not. All those processing used to happen manually. Not just that, with the internet, like I was mentioning before, a lot of these frauds started happening. So there were people who used to game the system. They used to spoof the system into believing that, okay, I am someone else, by just capturing a lot of the tokens and the messages that used to go between systems. And that deciphering it for a person became extremely difficult, because the two message types were very much identical to each other. So that is where, a lot of this fraud processing, anti-money laundering, fraud detection, anti-money laundering processing and all started getting automated. So with the automation of payment processing, these things also started getting automated, and so it made it that much more easier for people, and made the system that much more secure for people to actually start using. So that was about the automation bit. And now if you see, almost everything, you walk into a bank, and if you're someone like me who's from the 90s, and if you had walked into a bank, at least 10-15 years ago, you'll see a stark difference. Back then, even to get a passbook printed, you would have had to wait for a token, go up to the counter and then get it printed. Whereas nowadays, I don't know who uses a passbook in today's generation, but if there is someone who still wants to get their passbook printed for whatever reason, it might be some compliance or some audit requirement, there is an automated machine there. You don't have to wait in queue. You just have to insert your passbook into it, and it prints it for you. That is all automated for us. So we are interacting less with humans on the other side, more with machines. So that is how the payment process is also evolving at that, and at a much accelerated pace than the entire banking framework, if I can say so. Then finally, about 5-6 years ago, about early 2015s, we had the mobile payment systems that came into play. So mobile with, so India, if you see, as a nation, it moved from banking from doing their financial transactions in a traditional bank, skipped the entire using of their desktop or a computer or the entire internet, this thing, into directly into the mobile generation. So when you compare India with the rest of the world, we have this gap in between, whereas most people went from a traditional bank, a physical bank, to the internet on their home computers, on and then finally onto the mobile, this thing. In that way, I think because we skipped that intermediary step, there are a lot of new things that we are doing in India that the rest of the world wants to copy. Payment wallets, of course, is not something that's very new. It's been around from the time of the when internet banking came into play. PayPal was one of the first few payment wallets, if I may say so, because you do not really need to give anyone your bank account. If you had a PayPal account, all you needed was for them to know your the email ID linked with your PayPal account, and you could seamlessly transfer money over the internet using PayPal. So something like that, something exactly similar to that, was what was replicated for the payment wallets in India. Except for having opening a site on your desktop, you just needed to download an app, and it was that simple to transfer money between two people. And the biggest advantage of these payment wallets, so one of the first few payment wallets that came up was probably Freecharge, and they had a very niche focus. They were more into, use your wallet to make payments such as your mobile recharges, your DTH recharge, internet recharge, whatever, and you get some cashback, and you get some incentive or whatever. Then there was Paytm that came in. Paytm was indeed very revolutionary because, of course, they were targeting people who were already in the formal banking sector as well. But the biggest USP was that you don't really need a bank account to transact on Paytm. So a lot of teenagers and late teenagers, early 20 people who were yet to be formally inducted into the banking system could use Paytm wallets to transfer money between their friends, and that became like a huge rage between them, because at that point of time, at least, walking into a bank to open your account meant you have to fill up n number of forms. Whereas with Paytm, with these mobile wallets, it was as simple as just downloading an app and entering your mobile number into it. That was all you needed to do. So they reduced the time it took to start getting inducted into the formal financial system to do a transaction as well. And that was like a big challenge for all the people who, the banks and the traditional laggards that are there, the banks and NBFCs. That was a big challenge for them because they had to start thinking of new ways to start inducting customers just as fast. Um, so that was about on the payment wallet side. The last part in what is happening today is what is happening with UPI. UPI is indeed something very revolutionary, and more so because it's something that is happening, that has been developed in India and a lot of Southeast Asian countries, a lot of countries in the African regions as well, want to adopt UPI as a model. Now, why is that? With UPI, if you have a bank account, so what UPI did to bank transfer is similar to what emails did to mail transfers. So if you think of how previously, before the internet and before Hotmail and Gmail came in, how would you, if you had to write a letter to someone, how would you do it? You would physically write a letter. You will have to ensure that you have the correct address in place and then mail it. It was the same with making a bank transfer as well. You'll have to have the account number, you'll have to have the correct IFSC code, and a lot of other things before you can start making a transaction. With UPI, that was not necessary anymore. Everyone who opened a, so with UPI, the biggest advantage was also the portability between different apps. Now, with a payment wallet, like we were mentioning, MobiKwik, Freecharge, and Paytm, there was not much of portability between the apps. If you had a Paytm wallet, you could only transfer to another Paytm wallet. That was not the case with UPI. You were given a virtual private address, which was linked back to your bank account. Now, this virtual private address, like suppose, like for example, mine is my phone number at Axis Bank. So that virtual address, irrespective of which app I open, the minute I try linking my Axis Bank account, the same address comes in there. So it makes it that much more easier for people to remember ki, okay, if I want to transfer money to Kamalika, I probably had transferred to her using PhonePe at one point of time. Now I don't use PhonePe, I use GPay. I can still use, if I just remember her phone number, if I just have her phone number, I will still be able to transact money, send her the money, because her virtual private address stays the same. So that way, UPI system revolutionized the way people transacted using their mobile phones. The fact that you did not have to remember too many addresses, the fact that it was interoperable between different platforms, and a lot of banks that were, payment service providers for UPI, you did not really need to download or install another extra app to start your UPI transactions. You could do it via your app. So because of a lot of these things, it started inducting more and more people to start using digital payments as a means for transacting. And of course, COVID has been a big boom for UPI, because if you see the amount that has been transacting on UPI has come neck to neck with credit card payments. So that there is, the RBI publishes this data every month. So UPI has in a big way gained a lot of traction during the 6 months of lockdown, because people, and cash transaction as a result has also come down. So the government's dream of achieving a digital payment where India has kind of started getting realized nowadays. So that is about the scenario today. Let's move on to see what is happening what is in store for us in the next 2 to 3 years. One of the things that I think has gotten accelerated because of introduction of UPI, and with NPCI saying that they will come up with more such frameworks, is payment wallet integration. Right now, suppose say I use my Amazon Pay account to transact on Amazon, and every month, just for assumption, let's say that I load up around 5,000 rupees, but I end up spending only say 2,000. So the remaining 3,000 that's there, it's stuck in Amazon. Unless I buy something on Amazon, I'm not going to be able to use that money. Of course, nowadays Amazon Pay is coming up with physical, like they are partnering with a lot of physical merchants as well across the country to make sure that the money that you have in your Amazon Pay gets used somewhere else also. But then again, the merchant needs to be accepting Amazon Pay. So now NPCI is coming up with a framework wherein they want us to be able to integrate across the different payment wallets. It's okay if I have money in my Amazon Pay account and you're the vendor and you are accepting only Paytm, I will still be able to transact to you. So a lot of a lot of things are going on in this. The Bharat QR is one fantastic example of that, wherein they've tried to unify the entire QR payment system. The same is happening on the payment wallet side as well. And then comes the subscription payment services. Now, a lot of things, like a lot of us, especially during the lockdown, have signed on to Netflix, Hotstar, Disney Plus, and whatnot. Like we have a lot of these subscriptions going on, and a lot of them, you just insert your your card number, and every month it keeps deducting it for you. Now, traditionally, like even if you see 3-4 years back, when subscription was not that big a thing, having a standing instruction sort of a functionality on your card payments was not something very, it was not very seamless. Like customers had to every month go and authorize the payment, which becomes a kind of a pain. Like if you know that this customer, for he's probably signed up for the rest of the year, so every month he needs to pay out say 100 rupees. Why would you? He's already given you the permission at the start of the year when he's agreed to the contract he signed with you. Where he said, yes, I agree. I've read all the terms and conditions and I agree. He's agreed to you deducting 100 rupees every month. So why should you go back and every month take permission from him? And this gets compounded multifold when you have multiple payment services. So for both from the merchant side as well, for merchants, figuring out, okay, this is the tenure, this is the product package that he's opted for. So on the subscription payment side, let me just briefly mention about the two types of subscriptions that you can have. One is the recurrent monthly payment, or the recurrent payment model, wherein the amount that you have to pay is fixed. So, like, take for example, typical example is your Netflix subscription. Every month, if you've taken, like me, if you've taken the four people this thing, you will have to pay 800 rupees every month. And then the other one is pay per use or pay as you use subscription model. So this, an example of this would probably be Amazon subscribe and save model. So at Amazon subscribe and save, you probably have a subscription for say 10 items, but this month you've realized, okay, I don't want all these 10 items, I just want these 3 items. So based on that, your amount keeps changing. But every month the payment happens on a particular date. So these are the two types of subscription services that are there. And for the merchant to keep track of all this and sending out an invoice, it becomes a costly affair for them to handle this entire capability, which is why we are seeing a lot of subscription payment services coming up. ChargeB is one of the few things that I have read about in the recent times, and a lot of so I have subscribed to a lot of these digital magazines, and a lot of them use ChargeB as their backend to automate the process of subscription. Now, one of the good things that I've noticed with ChargeB, and I don't know if it's there with other subscription, is that every month it sends me like a snapshot. These are the subscriptions that you have. These are monthly. These are quarterly. This is the amount that you've spent. You could have saved, if you'd used this voucher, you could have saved X amount on this. So those are kind of the sweetening of the proposition for the customer, I would say, from a subscription payment service point of view. So that is about subscription payment services. And finally, coming to the last part, which is something I've seen very recently. I just read an article on this about 3 days back. Uh, this is on single sign-on authentication across different payment gateways and payment methods. So this pandemic has resulted in a lot of people, a lot of small merchants also, to join the online bandwagon. And almost everyone has a site of their own with a payment gateway integration done. And a lot of people, like, they also try promoting that over your usual shopping on Amazon and Flipkart. And in a way, you would also want to support the local ecosystem. So you would also probably want to go and shop in those. transaction every time. Now this becomes kind of, and especially if you're someone like me and my mom who shops online a lot, this is going to become a bit of a challenge for you. So that is where there is this new startup that has come up. They're called Fast, and they are backed by Stripe. They recently raised about $10 million, if I'm not mistaken. And what they do is they collate all your different card details and keep it in one place. Now, whenever you go into a new website, instead of again entering your payment details again, all you need to do is just sign on with your Stripe account. So right now they're growing at a very small scale because so right now all merchants who use Stripe as their payment gateway have this option available. They are yet to acquire other sorts of customers as well. But I'm pretty sure that this is a feature. This has a lot of other functionality right now. They're very specifically focusing only on the payment, single sign-on payment integration alone. But it has a lot of potential across different domains. Like for example, and this was a conversation that Abhigyan and I were having the other day. You could, you integrate all your different wallets together, and suppose you're shopping on a site, say, I don't know, buy books online or something like that, and buy books online probably has a tie-up with, say, HDFC Bank, wherein they're giving you a 10% cashback. So, if Fast can also give you that notification that, hey, would you want to use this account instead of your usual account, because you will get a 10% discount on this. So there are potential from both the merchant side and from the customer side as well for this to grow into something really big. Then another thing which I forgot to mention here is the tokenization of payment systems. So payment systems, you do not, again, this is again something where for people who are extremely paranoid about sharing their details online. So you do not have to share your card details anywhere. You will be every transaction that you do, you generate a token, and you use that token to authorize your payment. So that again is something that is coming up. So from the presentation point of view, I think that's about all I had. I just wanted to lay the groundwork so that we have, solid points to discuss in our the panel discussion that we have planned now. So that's about it from my side.
Kamalika, thank you so much for the seamless transition from my introduction into giving everybody the insights to the fintech space. Now, personally, even though I was attacked when you asked about the passbook, because I still use it. I'm one of those dinosaurs who still uses it. But that aside, I mean, the way you explain the UPI system compared to previously the mails being sent and then later electronic mail taking up the space and revolutionizing the space, I think such a brilliant imagery could not have been better described from any of us. So I personally think that the advances or the changes that you're saying are coming up, especially the single sign-in authentication for payment gateways, seems to be a key solution to solving critical problems like avoiding rampant fraudulent activities and data theft, to name a few. So very enlightening. Thank you so much for introducing us to this matter. Now let us step into the next segment of our session, the panel discussion. Now, other than Kamalika, who has already enlightened us with her key insights, let me introduce all of you to the other distinguished panelists. Now, we have Mr. Ganesh Malia. Ganesh is an expert. I mean, he possesses knowledge in technology as well as having spent 18 years in the industry. Mr. Ganesh is the definition of the word industry veteran. Having completed his education from the prestigious institutions like Manipal Institute of Technology and Alliance Manchester Business School, he went on to establish his company YBank very recently. YBank is a collections, payment, and cash management technology platform which is extremely cost effective compared to the competitors it has. It also settles the payments instantly without any delay in processing. In fact, the model is so effective that they were incorporated in the winter batch of Y Combinator's accelerator program this year. Apart from Ganesh, we also have Mr. Mohan. Mr. Mohan is a serial entrepreneur who comes from very humble beginning from a remote village in Tamil Nadu. from a fisherman family. At a very early age, he decided to make an impact on the society by making sure that his village is IT enabled. What started from a lean two-member startup called RoamSoft went on to become a 60 plus member strong team. Mr. Mohan co-founded a fintech startup in UAE called Fulusi, which was awarded the top 20 fintech startup in the Middle East award by Forbes. Having succeeded with his primary vision, Mr. Mohan went on to establish EpoPay. EpoPay now is a payment aggregator for SaaS businesses that collects and accepts payments from the customers. EpoPay helps offline businesses to create online stores and start selling via social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Finally, we have Mr. Mukhil Ganeshan, now a SaaS growth strategist and a brilliant marketer. Mr. Mukhil brings extensive experience of digital marketing and growth strategies to the table. Having consulted for various MNCs across US, India, Europe, and the Middle East, he consolidated his experience into books. Mr. Mukhil also boasts considerable experience in the SaaS ecosystem and currently handles demand generation and growth at a company called Felicio, a property operations cloud platform. He is also the editor of SaaS Insider, an online platform that educates people on the nitty-gritty of SaaS businesses. With the formal introductions, I want to come back to Kamalika and start with the first question I have to her. Kamalika, to carry on from your presentation, how do you segment customers in the payment domain?
Okay. So I'll probably be able to explain better from a bank's perspective because that's where I have my experience in. So in a bank,
Definitely.
because we are such a closely regulated system, we have a lot of information about the customer. So you anyone who's opened a bank account will know you have to submit n number of documents in order to get your bank account started. So from that, the entire demographic set of data is available with the bank. We know, for suppose as a customer X, we know where the customer is coming from, what his age group is, whether he's salaried or a businessman, what his monthly income is, like on an aggregated level, how much does he earn every month, what is the balance that he maintains with the bank. So these are some things that are used to build the demographics of the customer. Now coming to the kind of payments that he makes, uh, you there are lots of ways in which you can segment that. One is obviously the transactions that he does with the bank. So you can probably see is he someone who makes small ticket transactions multiple times in a month? Is he someone who would rather withdraw money from the ATM, in which case he's a kind of a conservative payment person because he's still opting for the traditional sort of payment methods? Or is he someone who uses internet banking a lot? Like what are the, and if he is using internet banking, from where all is he transacting from? Does he use his card? What all are the merchants on which he uses his card on? So based on that, you also have the payment ticket sizes that you have. So you can figure out if he is online active, or if he is more of a POS system or more of a cash sort of a guy. Apart from, and if he is someone who transacts on the card, then that gives you, whole universe of other data points that you can generate on him. You get the kind of merchant categories on which he's spending. You get the specific merchants on which he's spending on. So your targeting becomes that much more better. You also get information about the frequency with which he spends. Does he spend, once a week? Does he spend once a month? Once in 2 months? What sort of a frequency does he spend on? And on that basis, you can figure out a lot of things about when and where the customer is spending. So that is probably what on a bank's side that we generally do. So to segment on the basis of their spends and all that.
Very interesting, Kamalika. And tell me, once you identify and segregate these customers, what are the early indicators that you look out for in order to improve customer stickiness or retention in this particular aspect from a bank's perspective?
Okay. So banks also have information from, like, especially on the credit side, So like if you're a credit card user, or if you're any card user for that matter, there is something called credit bureaus where all your spends and balances that you maintain on your credit card gets reported to. And this is not just one bank that does it, banks all across do this. So the credit bureau has information about the different kinds of cards that a particular customer has, what is he spending every month on these cards, and you also have information about what your customer is spending on your card. So using that, we generate a metric called the share of wallet. So if the credit bureau says that this customer X has 5 credit cards and his total spends on across these 5 credit cards is 1,000 rupees. From that 1,000, you can see from your internal data that this customer has spent 200 rupees with you. So your share of wallet becomes 20% in that case. So monitoring your share of wallet is one useful way of seeing, if this customer is a good customer or is he likely to churn. Like suppose say traditionally your share of wallet has always been say around 30%, but in the last 2-3 months you've seen that your share of wallet has fallen down to 20%. So that is a warning of some sorts, that you could say this customer is attriting to other banks card payments or attriting to other modes of payments, which is why your payment, the amount that he spends on your card is going down. So that is one of the most common ways that in a bank we use. The next one is the utilization of the credit limit that you have on your card. So if you have a credit card limit of say 50,000, of which traditionally say he was using around 10,000, but now that has come down to something like say 3,000 or 4,000. So then you know ki, okay, there is a possibility that yeah, something is obviously not going right anymore, because the amount that he used to spend always has come down drastically for us. So let's try addressing that for the customer. That is one. Then banks also track something called the fixed obligation to income ratio. So what does a fixed obligation to income ratio mean? So suppose say you have an income of 10,000 rupees a month, of which you have an outstanding loan every month of say 2,000 rupees, and now you have and so ideally that means that you can spend 8,000, but that entire 8,000 obviously you're not going to spend. You're going to have some other sort of obligations like your rent payment
Buffer.
or yeah. So you take off that fixed obligation, you take 50%. So from that 8,000 comes down to 4,000, and that 4,000 is what is the disposable income that he has to spend, that the customer has, that he can spend on different items that he'd want to. Now, if this FOIR starts going up or down a little too erratically, then that is again another indicator. Key, there is some sort of something going wrong over here. So maybe you should take a pause and try figuring out what is happening with this customer. So these, top of my mind, these are a few of the metrics that are tracked at the bank level. Of course, there are the risk indicators also. But yeah, that's a separate session, so I'll park that aside for now. So yeah.
Sure. I think that gave us a very, introspective insight as to regards to, how banks, measure customer stickiness and what do they work on to, improve customer stickiness. Speaking of customer stickiness, I understand one of the major reasons in any industry for customers to stick around is better incentives than the competitors or the alternates. And what is a better incentive than better pricing than a competitor when it comes to a SaaS business? Ganesh, I would like to ask you the next question. Can you elucidate as to how important is continuous price optimization for a SaaS business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abhigyan. So SaaS business typically, if you notice, spend around 90% of their time focused on customer acquisition and retention, because that's bread and butter, right? Approximately around 10% of the time and attention is spent on pricing. So pricing typically when a SaaS business is set up is more often than not set either on cost plus or competitor based pricing. While it works initially, what happens is businesses may be leaving money back on the table. So what we have noticed is not getting the pricing right initially is not a problem, but not fixing it is a criminal offense. So gathering feedback on ongoing basis from your customers helps you understand the value you're delivering. Customer requirements, natures of the market, and software features typically more than often continually evolve. So new segment of customers will evolve or disappear, and this is what we have observed more often than not. So you require data and analytics to kind of track these changes and move towards value-based pricing, which is what a customer will pay you based on the value you deliver to them. So pricing strategy, what we have noticed, should be relooked and reassessed every 4 to 6 months. Of course, when you do pricing changes, it will not go very well with the customers, but honest communication as well as highlighting the reasons why this is happening will go a long way in convincing a customer to stick back with you.
Yeah, of course. So while customer conversion for SaaS businesses are a really difficult task, uh, so is the conversion of MSMEs in tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India for payment aggregators, as one of our panelists, Mr. Mohan, has discovered. Now, Mr. Mohan, the next question goes to you. What are the problems in small businesses and businesses in tier 2 and tier 3 cities that you're facing for subscription payments? That your company, Ipopay, helps small businesses for subscription payments. How are you, tackling these problems?
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Abhi, and thank you so much for your warm introduction about me also. So let me give you my insight regarding the subscription businesses, which I'm very familiar with. Okay. So first of all, I would like to talk about the list of the subscription businesses in tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas. Okay. In my house, I am buying a milk. I'm paying 1,200 rupees as a subscription, monthly subscription. I do have a car, and I'm paying 800 rupees as a monthly subscription. In my office, we are buying a newspaper, and we do have a coffee machine, and we have a AC, AMC. Like we are paying every 3 months once. It's all subscription business. Okay. In our day-to-day life, we do have a lot of subscription businesses, in India. If you see, all those businesses, they're still handling cash. Let's say, in my house, the milk akka has to walk minimum 3 times to collect her money. Like one time I may not be there. Second time, my wife is not there. If wife is not available at home, there is no payment happening in India. This is a huge problem. Okay, so most of the time, we do not have cash in hand. So this is happening in every small businesses and every businesses, who is doing in offline. Okay, so I spoke to the newspaper agency nearby my office. Okay, and he has 2,000 customers. He's distributing the paper. He told me he has 2 different teams. One team is distributing the papers. The next team is collecting the cash from the customer. He told me the very shocking news. He told me that whatever the collection boy bringing to the money to the table, that's the revenue of the company. Since is everybody paying via cash, like a lot of cheatings or fraud are happening. He told me one thing. Like one time the collection boy told there was a dog at the house was I was very afraid to inside, so I came down. So this may be true or may not be true, I don't know, but still there is a problem like this in the market right now. Okay, so that is why I was identified. Why don't we focus this industry? Okay, so we mainly focus in those sectors, especially tier 2, tier 3 and rural areas. Okay, so we help small businesses. Okay, we provide a simple Android-based solution where they can create a plan. Okay, and send it to their customer via SMS. Okay, or the WhatsApp. Sometime email if they have. Okay, so the customer can receive the link and they can make the payment from the credit card, debit card, or net banking. And recently, the great news is UPI launched AutoPay. Okay, so when they make the first payment, we store their card information because we are PCI DSS. Okay, we do recurring payments based on the plan which a vendor or merchant created. Okay, there are businesses happening in daily payments, weekly payments, monthly payments, 3 months once. Okay, so this is the biggest problem we are solving in India right now. If you see, the startups like ChargeBee helps online business to collect payment subscription business, right? So Ipo helps small businesses and offline businesses, can, like we help those businesses to collect payments from those customers. So this is the problem, in we identified, and we are bringing the solution to the market.
This is definitely a sector of the market which some of your competitors have ignored. I mean, I know for a fact, the rural areas or tier 2, tier 3
Exactly.
cities, with specific emphasis on the small businesses. However, clearly the data that you have procured, as you mentioned through your past experiences and your research, indicates that there is a big market that you can tap into here. Which brings us to the next part of our discussion, and I would say the most important part of any business, that is data. Now, my next question goes out to Mukhil. Mukhil, can you explain to us why leveraging data is crucial for a SaaS business or a company's growth?
Hey, thanks, Abhi. Thanks for the introduction. And of course, it was a great presentation by Kamalika, and Open and Ganesh gave some pretty insight to this session. So I'll be giving my insights on with generic the SaaS industry and how SaaS growth is realized within companies today. So one major advantage of a SaaS delivery model that software companies adopt today is that they'll be able to leverage data end to end from the moment a user enters their product to the moment they cancel their product. All this information and data can be easily leveraged by the specific company. So that's one of the beautiful. That's one of the beauties of the SaaS model today. And there are like once you collect all this information, once you collect data from say your accounts, your subscription, your products, and sales and marketing. So you have a repository of data wherein that unlocks you a lot of information. That's on a high level is a gold mine for any SaaS company, right? And of course, it's a bit complex to integrate all this information into a single repository. Maybe it might need an engineer or a developer's effort. But once you do that, you'll be able to map a customer's journey, map a user's journey within your product right from the moment they entered into your system as a lead. So they might be in your free plan, they might be in your paid plan, or they might be just evaluating, or they might be adding a couple of users, they might be upgrading or downgrading, so on, right? So all these are possible within a SaaS organization today. So all this can be tracked in real time, and there will be some growth person sitting on behind all this and analyzing all the data points that's getting generated. And what typically a growth team does is they'll get into this data, they'll try to pull out some insights, and definitely there will be a lot of opportunities for optimization and to build up some strategies, right? So what ideally a growth team does is they'll go ahead, they'll find that specific opportunities, and they'll try to build a lot of strategies. They'll go and execute that within their audience, and they'll try to again measure and optimize. So it's like a cycle wherein they'll be doing this repetitively until the objective is reached. So that's the power of data today. But I think one of our panelists told that most of the companies today focus 90% on acquiring the customers. That's indeed true. So most of them majorly focus on acquiring customers, but they do not focus much on retaining them. And that's a very dangerous situation, in particular for a SaaS company, because if you start losing out a lot of customers whom you acquire, then your recurring revenue goes down automatically, your retention rate goes down automatically, and ideally it pushes your company to a dangerous state, to a critical state. So I think most of the companies today needs to equally focus on acquiring and both retaining the customers. And for that, they definitely need a data engine, right? So this engine needs to be built, and this should be the go-to item for any analytics, any data with respect to the customers, with respect to the purchases, with respect to the users, payments, and etc. So I think most startups are coming up today to solve this particular problem within the SaaS industry. And again, so products like SaaSB or any of the standalone solutions are also providing inbuilt analytics to their customers. And that might be siloed today. They might be providing it only for subscription specific, or an email marketing tool like MailChimp would provide only marketing specific metrics, or a CRM solution might provide only sales specific metrics. But the idea is to combine all this data into a single engine. And on top of that, we can also add this product analytics, wherein you are able to map the complete journey of your user and then leverage it to build your strategies and to optimize all your work items, align your team. And in fact, this will also be helpful to predict your pipeline for the next 12 or 13 months. and whether you need two or three more
Exactly.
resources. So this will
Strategy.
always enable you to take some business level decisions also. Yeah.
I think to sum up your entire point, I would say if the richest man in the world, Mr. Bezos, has taught us anything, that's data is the
Mm-hmm.
key of any company to making money. So my next
Absolutely.
question
Yeah.
again would be to you, to know exactly how this data helps in customer retention and recurring
Mm-hmm.
revenue generation in specific accordance with the SaaS businesses.
All right. Yeah. So this is again a continuation to my previous answer. So once you have built an engine, built a data engine, so you'll be having all the information with respect to your customers and users and leads within the system, right? So the next step would ideally be to identify the patterns. I think Kamalika touched upon this when she was talking with respect to the banking industry. So with respect to the SaaS industry, what we ideally do is we go ahead and analyze how this person is behaving within the product. How much money are they paying? Whether they are monthly recurring, whether they are an annual recurring, how much users they have within their account, and from which region. Basically, the demographics information, and all this can be mapped easily. And we'll be able to pull up a lot of segments, right? So you'll be having a new customers, you'll be having a recurring customers, you'll be having a champion customers who've been paying for you for a lot of time, and they are happy customers who come back to you with testimonials and case studies and so on, right? So we'll be having a lot of segments. And again, this changes from company to company, from business to business, and from audience to audience, right?
Mhm.
So we basically need to identify the pattern. So with respect to retention and recurring revenue, once you reduce the churn rate, automatically your retention increases, and that in turn helps you in acquiring more revenue in terms of recurring revenue. So I'll be specifically touching upon the churn alone today because the rest of the things needs a very separate discussion actually. So with respect to churn, maybe a SaaS business owner or marketing team can do is uh, they can collect the number of customers they have lost, say within the last 2 or 3 months, and go back and analyze what has happened within the product, what has been their behavior before they cancel the subscription. So this would give you a lot of insights on what's happening. With an example would be they might not have signed into the product, say like 14 or 15 days, or sometimes the credit card would have failed. So this happens regularly in the SaaS industry. Sometimes the credit card would have failed, and the customer would not even know about that. And sometimes they would not have used the product in itself. They would have touched any features within the product. And these are some of the cues that tells you that this person is going to leave a product soon. So this can only be identified from the users whom you have already lost. So from this insight, you can go back and apply it to your existing customers. And when you add these filter criteria to your database, you can easily pull out the customers whom they are going to unsubscribe to your product soon. And then on top of that, the strategies can be built and this can be executed. And here comes the customer success function also. So a set of contacts will be given to the customer success teams. They'll go ahead and try to contact them and try to check with them whether everything is going fine with the product and so on, right? So this is just a single example, but a lot of variables can be added. You have your product analytics data, you have your accounts data, whether they are downgrading users within the account. So you can apply all the variables to this engine and exactly find that sweet spot where you need to optimize. That definitely takes some time, but once you identify that, it's like an engine. That's why I call it an engine. So once you identify that, it's like just accelerating what you're doing right now and going all out and pushing out the strategies, right? So that's just a high level view on how you can increase retention and increase your recurring revenue. And this engine also gives you opportunities for in multi-product SaaS companies, say like Freshworks or Zoho or Salesforce. So this will give you an opportunity to cross-sell and upsell. So you can easily upsell a person, say, who is going to breach their user limit within that particular plan. You can easily upsell to them maybe 2 or 3 months before they're going to actually upsell. So that's again an added recurring revenue, right? And you can also do cross-selling. So say a person, a customer who is using a CRM solution is looking at the analytics module consistently, and you have an analytics product in-house also. So you can easily send them a message, hand over those leads to your sales team, and ask them to go ahead and follow up and get them to buy another product. So these are some of the avenues that your data engine opens up. Again, these are just some of the examples and strategies that I'm saying here. There are like a lot of things that you can do once you build this engine. So in my experience, I think it took us around like 3 to 4 months to build this engine alone. So it took us a lot of effort. It required some engineering effort, development effort, and it also required someone who was good with this SQL and technical things. So once you do that, I think from that point on, it's like you need a person who is very good with numbers and so on. And all that you require is you need to go ahead and find what's happening and apply a particular set of strategies, apply it to your existing customers, find what has happened in the past, and optimize, and then execute, optimize, execute, and measure. So that's the cycle that we follow. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mukhil, to elucidate on the different strategies that SaaS companies can use. Focusing specifically on the issue of converting trial users to paid customers, as discussed by Mukhil right now. My next question to you is Ganesh. My next question to you would be, how do SaaS companies solve conversion problems? I mean, from this trial phase, and then when they get converted into permanent customers. What are the specific avenues that the SaaS companies use?
So this is one of my favorite questions, Abhigyan. Thank you so much for this. Conversion problems more than often arise due to poor pricing strategy. You have a customer for a couple of months, for a quarter, you're given the product for free, but to get them to pay for your product, that is where the magic lies for any SaaS company, right? So a few months back, a Harvard Business School study indicated that just improving 1%, a 1% improvement in pricing strategy or pricing resulted in 11% increase in profitability and was around 2x and 4x more effective than a similar percentage increase in customer retention or acquisition. So that's the kind of impact pricing, a good crafted pricing strategy has on a conversions, right? A good way to solve conversion problem is by taking a qualitative or quantitative approach, by understanding your first target market, the buyer personas who are buying your product, and then conducting price sensitivity studies. The price sensitivity studies will help you figure out as to the impact of various price points on your customer behavior, right? They will help you predict the impact of pricing on your sales volumes and ultimately find the most optimal kind of a price point which will generate more conversions. So there will be some customers who will not be happy with the pricing and they will leave, but that is okay. That churn is kind of affordable, but a majority will stick to you. So that is where a price sensitivity study, along with understanding the buyer personas as well as understanding the target group, will help you create a good pricing strategy.
Okay, that was very precise. How we explained. The SaaS businesses can solve these conversion problems. Now, with specific, all these issues. Some of them we have dealt with in this particular session, and some of them we have not yet discussed. There are X number of issues. There are multiple issues that the SaaS companies continuously try to develop their product, make it more customer satisfactory, and continuous development process, R&D process. So with so many issues to focus on and continuously strive towards development, on the other hand, the payment sector, which is directly involved with the SaaS businesses, I understand is very competitive in India. With continuous updates and trying to outshine your competitors. Mohan, my next question to you would be with regards to your company. How do you stand in front of your competitors? What are the basic challenges that as a payment gateway company that you are facing, and how do you plan to outshine your competitors? Or what are the specific things that you personally feel that the customers require to give them the best edge among your industry? What is your vision, if you can share your vision with us?
Yes, Abhi, the payment industry is very, very competitive in India. Okay, but still, there is a place for 2, 3, 4. I'm very happy with that. Okay, so what we are different from the other payment aggregator, that we focus on direct vendors and the merchants. Our focus is not the developer or online businesses who wants to accept payments. Most of the aggregator, focusing developer API. Our focus is the people who do not have online business and who cannot hire developers or who are not tech savvy. So that's our market actually. That our market is, as I said, like tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas. Okay. You asked about the challenges. Yeah, we do have our challenges. Okay. And especially the educating the merchant is the biggest challenge for us right now. Okay, because those areas, So we are planning to conduct some events, explain them, educate them. That's what we are going to do in those areas. I do have a confidence because my mother is 60 plus. She use smartphone, she use WhatsApp. She call me video call every day. So. They are very interested, like to learn new things, even though they are older people, So that's why, we are focusing right now. And if you ask me, my vision is very, very simple, Abhi, like I want to bring the digital transformation to my villages, okay, up to my villages. If you see, my mother, she walks 5 kilometers, okay, to pay her electricity bill, So that is what I want to focus, like I want to bring a digital and digital transformation, digital payments up to the villages. That's my focus.
Okay, that is a uniquely helpful vision that you are building at Ipope, Mohan. With such appealing, I mean, both what you are building at Ipope and also what Ganesh and his team has worked on, MyBank. With this entire range of appealing products and features, I'm pretty sure I can speak for everybody who's, attending this seminar. We look forward to both, YBank and Ipope, capturing major segments of the market in their respective, domains pretty soon. While we are talking on the topic of novelty and innovation, my final question would revert back to Kamalika. Kamalika, what do you see as the next disruptor in the payments field? I know you have covered some of them in the presentation, but specifically, there's anything that you see revolutionizing the field. Would you like to share with us?
This again is something that I came across recently. So there was about a month or two back, there was this global fintech conclave that was organized by NPCI and a couple of other players. So there, I came across this new startup called FamPay. Now FamPay works on tokenization of credit card payments. So and they are focusing on a very niche segment. So what they're trying to do is typically, if you see in a lot of because I said it's a niche segment, let me just explain a little bit on FamPay. So they're focusing on the upper middle or the higher income bracket families in India. And what they're doing is these people generally, on a monthly basis, give their children a pocket money of say 5,000, 10,000 or whatever it is. And that they typically do by giving their kids an add-on card, like an add-on credit card. Now, the thing with an add-on credit card is that the limit is shared with both the credit cards. So there's no way to, limit the spends that your child has. So FamPay is trying to revolutionize that by giving them a tokenized system. So the parents have access to the amount that the children spend on that tokenized system. The children do not need a credit card to swipe anywhere. They just need an app that gives them, for every transaction that they generate, it gives them a token. They just need to submit that token. So your at the back end, your card details are, safe and secure. You have a repository where you can see, okay, these are the things that they've spent on. So while right now FamPay is focusing mostly on only, getting the people who do not have a formal banking sort of this thing relationship into the folds, I think this has potential across a lot of domains. Like it's not just, you can probably set it up for your different subscriptions. Like for me especially, I have a number of subscriptions that I can't keep track of. So probably, I set an upper cap. Okay, this month I don't want to spend more than 2,000 on my subscriptions. It's going overboard. So I set up a tokenized system that tells me, okay, these subscription are what will go out for me on a monthly basis. I want to prioritize this. I don't want to prioritize this. And not just that, it can also, inform people or educate people on the different types of saving schemes that are there, the different ways that they can invest their money in, all using this tokenized system. So I think that is one thing that I see a lot of it happening going down in the future. Uh, uh, so yeah, that's something that I think is very interesting.
So
It has a lot of,
basically, if I yeah,
yeah,
so
Vishnu.
basically, other than the niche segment that you talked about over here, I mean, they have definitely, targeted a specific segment. But I also think that, they have discovered a new segment altogether, 18 and below. I mean, I don't think anybody up till now had targeted that specific, segment of the market. And I think, they can expand it into other areas as well. I mean, not only to user groups who have already, are using these services, but to different types of services that they can provide. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. This is revolutionizing indeed. So yeah, so I think with such amazing innovations in the fintech industry coming more and more often in the market, I'm not surprised that, I mean, you can go by recent statistics that the most highly sought after sector for investors in the startup ecosystem is the fintech sector, right? So, okay, personally makes me regret not taking up either finance or tech in my career. So that is something that I'm regretting even as of now while, moderating this particular event. So, Ganesh and Mohan, I mean, I would love to buy in based on what you described about, your companies and what I've read. I would love to buy in either of your companies' shares at face value, but I'm pretty sure you would not, sell it to me face value. So, market value is something I personally can't afford. But nonetheless, all of you, all the panelists, Kamalika, Mohan, Ganesh, and Mukhil, all of you, thank you so much for sharing your information and your knowledge. Most importantly, your experience with us in the SaaS and the payment ecosystem. That was very enriching information, from all of you. So, on behalf of all the attendees, I would also like to thank you. Now, this brings us to the final segment of the discussion. I would like to invite all the participants to come forward with any questions they are contemplating. And I would like to invite all the panelists to feel free to answer any of the questions they personally would like to.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Kamalika, go right ahead.
So this one is probably to both Ganesh and to Mukil. So I remember you were talking about the free trials sort of a model. Now for a SaaS company, what do you think? Like there is also a freemium model. There's like what Dropbox has done. They give you up to 2 GB for free, and then if you want anything more, you upgrade to their paid version. So what do you think of inducting customers or using freemium as a acquisition strategy versus free trial? What is your take? For both of you, what would be your take on freemium versus free trial? What are the pros, cons for both? And yeah, so that would be my question to the two of you.
Should I go first, Mukhil? Mukhil, okay, you can
Mukhil,
go.
would you like to?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Ganesh can go ahead, Ganesh. Yeah.
So,
Ganesh,
depends on the
please.
yeah. So I will take a stab at it, and then Mukhil can add to it. So, Kamalika, very good question. What we have noticed is it works for different kind of product lines. Basically, the freemium version as well as the free trials one. Free trials kind of works with enterprisey kind of products such as ours. We are into B2B collections and payouts, and what we have noticed is rather than saying do around 20 payouts per month or 20 collections per month, it allows it is better for our customers to explore the product in its entirety, and there it makes sense. For premium product, it gives you all the features, like for example Dropbox gives you 2 gig of data to start with, and then to it allows you to pay and get more data. So there Dropbox allows you to experience its entire features, right? And then the allows you to pay and get more. Whereas with us, it free trials kind of work, as in my thought process is that in enterprise the free trial kind of works better than in a consumer product where a freemium kind of a model works better? Mukil, over to you.
Yeah. So when it comes to free trial or free plan, so it completely depends on the product and the market that the company is going after. So if you look at enterprise B2B SaaS companies, they don't even have a free trial or a free premium plan. The customer or the prospect needs to pay for a pilot. So they need to pilot the product for like 2 to 3 months, and they need to pay a small fee for that, and then they can get back and go ahead with the next steps, right? But when you consider an SMB focused company, so a lot of strategy plays in this premium and free plan, right? So when you give a freemium subscription to a user, you kind of expose some of the features that's available in your paid plan. And it depends on timeline. So they might give you like 15 days premium or 30 days premium, or for B2C companies like Dropbox, they might have a space cap wherein you can't upload any of the files or data into your Dropbox after some 2 GB of speed. So by the time you adopt the product, you start using it frequently, and you have realized the value of the specific product, you won't be looking at any other competitor or alternative. So that gives a high competitive edge for those companies. And this has been a proven model for most of the B2B SaaS companies who sell to the SMB market today. So that's why I think majority, 90% of the companies have a freemium plan, wherein the customer gets in, they adopt the product. They would have also imported all the business data into their product also. So, and if they have seen the value, they'll definitely upgrade. So, and again, SaaS companies have a monthly pricing or a quarterly pricing or yearly pricing, right? So they'll definitely upgrade. And most of the companies are also flexible today. They might be open to extend their trials by say another 15 days or 30 days. So premium is a working engine and working growth engine for most of the SMB focused SaaS companies today. And if you take the free plan, I think, I have not much. I'm not much inclined on the free plan today from a personal perspective. One thing that I think of is, so I feel that a new user should experience at least 1 or 2 features that are available in the paid plan before they take a call, right? And in fact, for B2C, I think it might work. The free plan might work. But when you consider the B2B segments, I think premium would be the go-to plan for any company who wants to penetrate into the market and get some good amount of customers and generate revenue.
Okay, that was really enlightening. Actually, the next question is from Praveen. Praveen is asking to Mukil, can you share how strategies to acquire customer data for SaaS optimization for B2B businesses? Because many of the times a third-party data source for B2B businesses are not readily available.
Mm-hmm. So I think you don't need to go and ask for a third party for data. So because all the data that you are segmenting or consolidating is the data that you are generating, that your business is generating, right? The data that's getting generated from your customers' behavior within the product, and the data that's getting generated from your leads within the sales funnel, and the data that's getting generated from your marketing activities that your marketing team performs for the people in various stages of your sales funnel. So we just need to consolidate all these data, and we don't need to go ahead and ask a third party for the data. And I don't think that will make sense in terms of building strategies, because you can't build a strategy from the data that a third party person or third party company gives you. So you need to build the strategy on top of the data that your company generates and your business functions generate today. So I think, there will be a challenge in consolidating all this information, because the teams are siloed today, and the tech stack is siloed today, and that's where a bottleneck often appears. So to overcome that, I think you can easily pull that with the help of a developer. And I mean, most of the companies today have an API support, right? So you can easily pull the data from across the applications. You can either push it to a database, or you can either push it to a analytics tool, and so on. So I think the real challenge is in consolidating the data that your company generates today across your business functions. It can be sales, marketing, finance, product, or customer service. I believe that answers your question, Praveen.
Okay. Next question comes from Vikas. Now, Vikas, I think, would like to ask this to everybody, specifically to Ganesh. Ganesh, the question I would like to redirect to you. with respect to fintech services, consumers are not willing to pay for payment processing. How will this get resolved? And is anyone showing positive contributions in fintech?
Of course, the government is pushing for zero MDR, and it's very correct to mention that uh, consumers don't want to pay for payment processing. What we have seen work very well is services around the payments area. For example, we do collections and payouts, and along with that, we also do reconciliation. And customers are more than happy to pay for the reconciliation part. That's why we have managed to keep our pricing low, as you mentioned in the introduction. So in terms of positive contribution, we are seeing a lot of young fintechs making those, but these are all around the value added services range. Like Kamalika mentioned, FamPay, which allows tokenization of services where parents can put in a certain amount of money into their children's cards and it can be spent. So definitely there are positive contributions which are happening. The government is going and pressing for zero MDR, which is the merchant discount rate, and we are seeing a lot of companies trying to generate revenues by providing the value added services. That's it from me, Abhigyan.
Thank you, Ganesh. I think we can take one final question. Okay, I think we will go with this. Ram Kumar has asked, considering the fact that you are targeting tier 2, tier 3 segment, how receptive are the audience when it comes to paying for an app to manage their payments? Question goes to Mohan.
There was a small, issues with the audio. Can you please repeat?
Yes, Mohan, the question from Ram Kumar is, considering the fact that you are targeting tier 2 and tier 3 cities and segments, how receptive are the audience when it comes to paying for an app to manage their payments? Payment, basically, the pricing.
For the pricing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly speaking, this is definitely related with the previous question also. Okay. So the payment, of course, the end consumer is not really ready to pay for the payment processing, even in the big cities, So it's definitely not possible for the tier 2, tier 3 rural areas. Definitely not possible. Okay. But if you see in because we are the aggregator, because I can answer it better way, So we are not even charging the merchants for the UPI payments, okay? Because the UPI is definitely zero MDI charges, okay? We support, like the merchants. We usually say to the merchants, force or inform your client to make payment via UPI. That way, obviously, like you will make the full money. Okay, we as aggregator, we definitely, as Ganesh said, we will make money from other ordered services. We have other ordered services like BBBS, we have multiple options to make money. Okay, so definitely, I can make it short. Okay, it's not even cities, even the rural areas not ready to pay for the services via applications.
Okay. Thank you for the detailed description there. I can see some more questions over here. However, I'm afraid that we are out of time. But rest assured, we will ensure that none of your queries go unanswered. So basically, in the chat window, we are providing an email ID where you can mail us your questions, which we will send through to our panelists. I mean, you can mention to whom you have a specific question, or to if to everybody, then mention everybody. Our panelists will get back to us and we will revert back to you with the same. I think that brings us to the end and conclusion of this session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed panelists, Kamalika, Ganesh, Mohan, and Mukhil, for taking out time from their valuable and busy schedule to educate us all on the different aspects and the different topics that we discussed in today's seminar. But most importantly, this event would not have been possible without the support from Team Palnesto, Team C Marketplace, and us here at Team Hackstrap. So we look forward to doing many more events together, and we would like to see all of you, the participants, to join us for any future sessions that we conduct. most importantly, I would like to thank all of you who participated in today's seminar for making it a resounding success. I would like to invite in this specific occasion Mr. Rishabh from Panelists to speak a few words, to address the entire seminar here before we conclude.
Hi, Abhigyan. Good afternoon. Firstly, when Sandeep came up with this, the whole idea about having this event, we were thinking of something very tiny, small event with just a bunch of 10, 15 people being invited for just having a quick discussions about payment gateway and SaaS businesses out there. But never I would have imagined at that about just a week back that this event will turn out to be so much more larger than what we had thought of, and more importantly, so well conducted. And it's been a real honor to be a branding and marketing partner for Hackstrap on these things. And all the panelists, the amount of information which was discussed today was amazing. There's so many things that I was just continuously just scribbling down notes and stuff on my paper as well, because it was that informative. And I'm pretty sure all the participants, I can see that the retentionship of the whole seminar is very well. We started off the number and we retained the same numbers till the very end. That itself speaks a lot that the webinar was interesting.
Engaging.
Otherwise, you generally have these webinars, you start off with 500, 600 numbers, and till the end, there are hardly 5 or 10 people left in the whole webinar. So it was really interesting that it was not one of that. So really well conducted. Kudos to all the panelists out there. Great initiation by Sandeep Hackstrap and Abhigyan from Hackstrap. You guys did really well. And that's about it.
Great. Thank you so much for your fine words, Rishabh. Thank you, everyone, and stay tuned. We will be doing another session soon, maybe on some other topic, but we would like to see all of you joining us for the next session very soon. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, guys.
This session a success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.